Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. This is Dr. Mubashir Nadeem. On the behalf of the University of Education, Lahore, I welcome you all to the second semester, which is, I think, a very interesting semester because you have made the foundation of your program, that is MA English or BS English. At the same time, happy, so much happy because I am the instructor for this particular course entitled Phonetics and Phonology. Its course code is ENGL1118, and many things regarding phonetics and phonology you shall be learning during this course. But before we start our today's session, I think it is appropriate to talk certain things which are very important for the students. Normally, in the virtual learning, most of the students are listening to the instructors, but I don't want to have this mode. I want you to work with me the way I ask you to work. For example, you have got the opportunity at your home that you can stop the recording or the demonstration of any session and you can do some sort of activity which I ask you to do. But at the same time, it's very important that you must visualize that we are in the classroom. Of course, it is not face-to-face interaction, but I shall try my level best to be very simple, and I shall assume that you people are in front of me. I'm talking to you and I'm trying to engage you people in different sort of tasks which are very important in the classroom. My personal belief about this particular course is that it is little technical in the sense that we will be engaged in the concepts to learn certain things about the sounds and then of course the pronunciation, but I'm not talking about them now. One more thing I would like to say, that each student is requested to make a folder. Folder is very important for you people, because whatever the activity or the task that is assigned during or after this session, I think you need to do that task and you have to put in that folder. And of course, after the end of this semester, if a folder is ready, of course your instructor, of course me, I'll be able to have a look on it and I shall try to assess it. But at the same time, it is imperative for every one of us that we have to assess ourselves all the time. There is no need to get panic, there is no need to be confused. I know that you shall come across certain terms, certain terminologies. Naturally, when we are just picking up a new course about which we have not done anything so far, but I think you understand the basics of phonetics and phonology because some of you studied this in the semester number 1, but not as a complete course. Our today's session is number 1. But before we start our session, remember the course outline is very important to understand that what are the things we are going to talk about in this semester. The university has designed this course for you people, having this course outline which I feel imperative to read for you people. The first part is phonetics. We shall introduce phonetics. We shall try to understand the branches of phonetics, such as articulatory, the acoustic and the auditory phonetics. We shall try to understand English phonology, and we shall try to learn English consonant and vowel sounds. The second part is based on suprasegmental phonology. Yes, exactly. At this time, there is no need to be worried about this, that what does it mean? Simply, you have to listen, you have to pronounce the words. Okay? In this part, we should try to learn the syllable stress, word stress, sentence stress, weak forms, intonation, accent, rhythm in connected speech, features of connected speech such as assimilation, elision, linking and liaison, etc. You can call this word as liaison, no problem at all, but the British people pronounce this word as liaison. And finally, it is expected that you shall be able to transcribe general English into phonetic transcription. There are certain objectives of this course. The university expects that after the completion of this course, the students will be able to explain phonetics and its branches, differentiate between phonetics and phonology, discuss English phonology, consonant and vowel sounds, learn a number of technical terms related to the course, differentiate between consonant and vowels, describe the concepts associated with pronunciation, and transcribe general English into phonetic. So this is what I was talking about in the previous slide. So these are very important objectives. Remember, objectives are on the entire outline of the course which has been proposed for you people. Whatever the course is, remember, it has got certain objectives to achieve. I think both you and me, I think we are the partners of learning. Yes, exactly, it is written instructor, but I personally believe that the instructor is more a facilitator of learning, as you are my partner of learning or in learning. So we have to work together, we have to cooperate. There are certain questions come to the mind of the students. Definitely you are free to ask questions, but this is not the forum. When you will be in the class, you can ask certain questions, right? Of course, through online. But I was talking about these objectives. How can we achieve these objectives as an instructor, and as a learner? I have to try that I communicate the things properly. I try to analyze the things properly. I try to discuss the things properly. And I will try my level best to be very simple, so that you may not have any sort of problem while listening to me. It's quite natural that when we are exposed to a foreign language or a second language, but in our case, for example, we can say English is the foreign language, there are certain comprehension problems and we don't have to be worried about them. Naturally and gradually, of course, you can overcome those problems if at all you have. So it is very important for all of us that we have to work hard, we have to practice, and we have to get ourselves engaged in the activities or the tasks which I give you through or in the session, during the session and after the session. I hope it is clear. But most importantly, the recommended books. You've got books online, you can have access to them, but there are certain sources, remember, we have to acknowledge, and definitely we'll be acknowledging them when we close this semester. You can read them, you can get the material, you can consult these books, no problem at all. Not only these books, but whatever the books you want to read. My dear students, this is session number 1, week 1. What are the topics we have to discuss today in this session? Number 1 is, what is phonetics? Then understanding phonetics, the study of phonemes, phonetics and the brain, phonetics and other disciplines of learning. So we'll be talking about 5 broad areas which are in front of you during today's session, and I expect your cooperation, your attentive listening, and your concentration on what I am saying. I shall try my level best to be simple as I can. The slide in front of you is a very simple slide. We see a speaker and a listener. or hearer maybe. But remember, my dear students, there are many things in between these two places or spots. The mouth of the speaker and the ear of the listener. We are all the time engaged in talking, in conversation, certain types of discussions. We are listening our teachers in the classroom outside. We are engaged in some sort of debate, some speeches at home, in the street, wherever. So all the time we are in fact playing certain roles. Sometimes speaker's role, sometimes listener. For instance, at this moment when I'm talking to you, I am not only a speaker but a listener. I am talking to you, but I am listener at the same time. I know what I am talking and what kind of sounds I am producing. But remember, it's not only the sounds I am producing. I am producing the pattern sounds of a language that is known as English. English. When I talk about phonetics, remember, I don't have to talk about any particular language. But for your understanding's sake, time and again, I shall bring the name of this language which we call English. Because we have to understand first of all what is phonetics, and then we have to talk about some particular language. This time I'm talking about the speaker and the listener. But the story is not as easy the way we think it should be, or it could be, or it is. It is more than that. We say the things, somebody listens to them, all right. But what happens? How one says the things? And what about the receiving of the sounds when somebody is producing sounds and in the form of words and sentences, and our ears in fact receive them? That means there are certain processes we are involved, both the speaker and the listener. If I am the speaker at this time, remember, I am following some sort of process. And if you are the listener, you are following some sort of process. At times we do not know, or we are not conscious about the process we are engaged in. But this particular course will definitely tell you what are these processes, how do they function, whether there are some processes or not. We have to talk many things like that, but during the course of studies. In today's session, it's not only the speaker and the listener, but I want you, because I'm taking the start and I'm trying to show this particular slide to make you understand that it's something important we are going to talk about in the coming slides or during this session. For example, if I set my objective, as there are objectives of this course which the university has felt convenient, or like these are the objectives that the students should be able to do this. As an instructor, I have got my own objective. I always set some sort of objective for me which I need to achieve while I'm talking to my students during the entire semester, whatever the class it is, what is the course, whatever the course this is, but I have got my own objective. And for this particular course, my objective is that my learners, definitely my students and the learners of this particular course, this mentioned course, Phonetics and Phonology, after the completion, the learners, all the learners, but the learner will say, I love phonetics. I love phonetics. You can call me optimistic person. Yes, I am optimistic person. But I am saying with a reason. Because I said earlier, this is one of the technical courses. This is one of the, or these are some of the technical branches of linguistics, both phonetics and phonology. We are not only engaged in writing only. when we are just following or we are trying to learn phonetics and phonology, but we are engaged in speaking. That means two versions, spoken version and written version. Absolutely right. So it is not only the versions I'm saying, because you people are all the time engaged in writing English and speaking English inside the classroom, outside the classroom, with your teachers and with your colleagues, with your peers, with your friends all the time. But it is more than that. If we are to produce some sounds, we are not only producing sounds, it is more than that. Okay? As I said, that there are certain expectations from the students of such programs where English is the major, like BS English, MA English, at least so far as the language skills are concerned. The other students feel at your university that these are the students who know better English language skills, maybe listening, speaking, reading, or writing. Why? Because your major is English. So with this confidence, I am saying that you will be speaking English, you shall be writing English, and you should try to engage yourself in certain activities regarding English pronunciation and English writing processes and certain skills you need to improve. That's why I'm saying that this is my objective, that after the completion of this course, the learner will be saying, I love phonetics. But for me, I think the task is I have to make the things easy for you so that you may understand them. You may comprehend them. At the same time, through practice, you will be able to achieve the target or the objectives, whether this objective which is in front of you or maybe the objectives which I have just presented before you. Now, I want you to pronounce the word which you can see on the slide. Yes, say again. All right. It is possible that some of the students pronounce this word as phonetics. Phonetics. But its correct pronunciation is phonetics. Some of you may be thinking that then what is the difference if you call it phonetics or if you call it phonetics? My dear ones, remember there is a big difference. There is a big difference. The slight change of one sound can change the meaning of the entire word, such as phonetics, right? But when you say phonetics, that is something else. But if you call somebody phonetic or phonetics, this is a derogatory term. But when we say phonetics, that means the branch of linguistics or one of the branches of linguistics. Now, where is the difference in fact? The difference is in the pronunciation or in the production of two sounds. In the word phonetics, we are using a sound. A. At the bottom of your slide, you can see a. That is the symbol. We'll be talking about these symbols in detail in the coming days. And the second is a. A. A and a. So that is the big difference in phonetics and phonetics. Now I want you to say this word. Yes, say again. Now my dear students, it is possible, I am saying it is possible that some of the students pronounce this word as phonology. 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 But the correct pronunciation of this word is phonology. Phonology. Okay? Now, what is the difference? Where lies the difference? What has happened to the people, to the students who said this word as a phonology, that there is O and A sound difference? For example, after F, instead of using A sound, the students used O sound. And after N, instead of using O sound, they used A sound. Watch the difference. A and O. They were supposed to be using the sound O, but they used the sound A. And then after L, instead of using the sound they use the sound O. That makes phonology. But the correct pronunciation of this word is phonology. This is what we are going to talk about in the entire semester. Not only phonology, but phonetics as well. First phonetics and then phonology. That's why I am saying welcome to phonetics. Welcome to phonetics. I hope you remember that one of the objectives of this course is that you have to understand some of the terms related to this course. I am not saying that all the terms are in front of you now, but some of the terms, these are the terms, and some of the terms, like them or not like them, you shall come across. For example, some of the terms under phonetics, for example, vowels, semivowels, consonants, diphthongs, triphthongs, accent, some of the terms like that. During phonetics and phonology, some of the terms, there are many more, but just for example's sake, I am just presenting before you that when you come across these terms, we have to elaborate them. We have to analyze them. We have to understand why vowel is called vowel, or why a consonant is called consonant, and why diphthong is called diphthong. Okay? So we have to understand the concepts first of all, which are behind them. Okay? Now let's talk about phonetics. But before we talk about phonetics, if I put you a question about the terms you have read in the previous slide, like consonant and vowel, if somebody puts you a question, and the question is, what is the difference between a consonant and vowel, what will be your answer? Yes, what is your answer? That's a very simple question. What is the difference between a consonant and a vowel? Now, whatever is your answer, please write down on a piece of page. But listen to me carefully. If somebody asks you what is the difference between a consonant and a vowel, remember a very simple answer. Very simple answer. Even children understand this answer and they know this answer. And that is, when we produce a consonant, the airstream in between our lungs and mouth, that is obstructed somewhere. That is blocked somewhere in between the lungs and the mouth. I repeat, when we produce a consonant, remember the airstream from our lungs to mouth, somewhere it is blocked, somewhere it is obstructed. But when we produce a vowel, the airstream is never blocked in between our lungs and our mouth. Is it okay? So, why I have asked you this question, that is, there is a reason behind this. Because very soon you shall come to know the importance of this question. For example, when I say phonetics is a branch of linguistics that focuses on the production and classification of the speech sounds. The production of speech looks at the interaction of different vocal organs, for example, the lips, tongue and teeth, to produce particular sounds. Dear students, I repeat for you, phonetics is a branch of linguistics that focuses on the production and classification of the speech sounds. The production of speech looks at the interaction of different vocal organs, for example, the lips, tongue and teeth, to produce particular sounds. Now, two words are bold in line number 2, and they are production and classification. But the question arises, production and classification of what? Now the answer is given there, of the speech sounds. When I talk about the speech sounds, what do you think? I am talking about human beings or some other species? Of course, I am talking about human speech sounds. So that means phonetics is the branch of linguistics, or one of the branches of linguistics, that talks about the production and classification of the speech sounds. That means much is to be understood and analyzed so far as the word production is concerned or the word classification is concerned, because we are going to have speech sounds. That means we have got many speech sounds. Now, I would emphasize over here, although I should not be talking about English, as I said, but for example's sake, I am saying the word English so that you may be able to understand. This time I am speaking English language. Now you are understanding English language. Now what is the medium to understand my language? The medium is, of course, sounds. But sounds have got their own medium. That is air. For example, when we are talking face-to-face interaction, the air is helping us. There is the medium. Because air takes the sounds from the mouth of the speaker to the ear of the hearer or the listener. That's why I'm saying that this is the branch of linguistics that focuses on the production and classification of the speech sounds. Then it says the production of speech sound looks at the interaction of different vocal organs. That means that when we are producing some speech sounds, certain speech organs or vocal organs are also working. I have just written over there 3 speech organs: lips, tongue and teeth. Some of you may be thinking that only lips, tongue and teeth, they work. No, this is not the story, my dear friends. It is beyond that. It is beyond that. We shall be analyzing each and every speech sound separately. And then, when we say by classification of speech, we focus on the sorting of speech sound into categories, which can be seen in what is called the International Phonetic Alphabet. I repeat, by classification of speech, we focus on the sorting of speech sounds into categories which can be seen in what is called the International Phonetic Alphabet. That is something new again, IPA. What is this? We have to understand that. What is this? That means when we are talking about speech or speech sounds and we are going to sort them out, we are going to separate them. All right, there is some sort of a theory maybe. I'm not saying theory. It may be something else, but I'm saying something. Because of course, let me tell you this framework. Something is there which categorizes all these speech sounds. Look at this slide. The IPA is a framework that uses a single symbol to describe each distinct sound in the language and can be found in dictionaries and in textbooks worldwide. Okay? So that means it is a framework. It's a framework that uses single symbol to describe each distinct sound in the language, whatever the language is. This framework, in fact, uses a single symbol to describe each distinct sound separately, whatever the language is, no problem at all. But this is what is found in the dictionaries and textbooks. And I'm sure when I talk about dictionary, the dictionary I like, all the dictionaries are very good. But the dictionary you must have is Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. So if you look up any word and you consult the dictionary, you will find, of course, each symbol has got distinction. A separate symbol has been given to each sound. So for example, the noun fish. If I use the word fish, how many letters are there? Definitely 4. So far as the alphabet are concerned. But remember, when we talk about the sounds, there are 3 sounds. F, I, sh. Fish. But this word has got 4 letters. Okay? So far as the sounds are concerned, there are 3 sounds in this word. F, I, sh. I am not saying that SH is replaced with sh. That is a separate story. We will be talking about this later on. Okay? Now, may I say that phonetics as an interdisciplinary science has many implications. If I say phonetics as an interdisciplinary science has many applications. What applications? Interdisciplinary, what does it mean? That means some other disciplines are also working with it, or it is working with them. Let's read the next line. That means this includes its use in forensic investigations when trying to work out whose voice is behind a recording. Now I am giving you this example. I am saying I am Dr. Mubashir Nadeem, who has been allotted this course by the university to teach. And now I am recording my session for you people. It is very important to understand whether I am Dr. Mubashir or not. So this phonetics, or the branch of linguistics, the world of phonetics, the discipline of phonetics, in fact, it provides us some techniques to forensically investigate whether this is the recording of Dr. Mubashir or not. So that's why I said it is an interdisciplinary science at the same time, and that's why it has got many applications. For instance, there is another role in language teaching and learning, and that role is maybe for the first language, that is your mother tongue, or maybe the language you are learning, for example English. What happens? Let's think about the students, little children. How do the teachers teach them? I hope that you know the term phonic. symbol and sound. Maybe a different methodology is there, but at least this is what they learn at the school when they are engaged in learning foreign language like English. And at the same time, when they talk about Urdu, how do the teachers teach Urdu? Right? There are certain symbols are there. And then each symbol has got its sound. What about Arabic? What do our teachers do? They first of all pick up Yasal Quran, because it tells us about the symbols and then what are the sounds of the symbols are. There are many sounds. Okay? Further, phonetics, the study of speech sounds and their physiological production and acoustic qualities. Now that is something new for us to understand. As a study of speech sounds and their physiological production and acoustic qualities. The two new words we have come to know. One is the physiological, related to physiology, and the second is the acoustics. Don't you think that acoustic, when I say it is something about sound, don't you think that it is associated with physics? Okay? Physiological production and acoustic qualities. That means production of speech sounds. And then acoustic qualities mean that there are certain properties. There are certain properties. For example, it deals with the configurations of the vocal tract used to produce speech sounds. Configuration. This is the word you know about your computer, isn't it? But when we talk about phonetics, remember, it is the configurations of the vocal tract. Vocal tract is a very simple term you can understand. But there are many other things, many other speech organs which are the part and parcel of vocal tract. And when we say vocal tract, that means articulatory phonetics. How to use sounds, how to produce sounds, or how does the speaker produce sounds, and the acoustic properties of speech sounds. Acoustics, what are the properties, how one sound is produced, what is the way to produce one sound, what are the speech organs involved in the production of one speech sound, and what is the outcome, what is the sound that is generated. For example, if I say f and at the same time I say th, f and th, watch when I am producing the sound f, my upper teeth are touching the lower lip. F. But when I am producing the sound th, my tip of the tongue is touching the back of upper teeth. Th. Think. Right? Thin. Are you getting my point? And then at the manner of combining sounds so as to make syllables, words and sentences, when we make syllables, words and then sentences, this is what we call linguistic phonetics. Are you getting my point? Starting from the production and classification, then I also talked about the role of some other disciplines like physiology and physics. And then I talked about how the sounds we produce. That means we are related to articulatory world, articulatory phonetics. And what kind of sounds are produced? Alright, acoustic phonetics. And when, after having produced the sounds, and we understand the nature of sounds, we convert them into certain syllables, words, and sentences. And when we say these things, that is the part, that's the area to be played by linguistic phonetics. Are you getting my point? Now, symbols, I told you, we talked about this. Symbols, distinct sound. Each symbol has got distinct sound. May I read it for you? In any language, we can identify a small number of regularly used sounds, vowels and consonants, that we call phonemes. Now, I repeat, in any language, we can identify a small number of regularly used sounds, vowels and consonants, that we call phonemes. For example, the vowels in the words pin and pen are different phonemes. Pin, p, I, n, pin. Pen, p, a, n, pen. Isn't it? They are different phonemes. But when I use the words pat and bat, in pat I have p, and in bat I have b. These are different. In the first two words, pin and pen, so the phonemes, vowel phonemes are I and A. But in pat and bat, we have got p and b. So this is what we are saying study of phonemes means. In any language, we can identify a small number of regularly used sounds. And in English, for example, we have got vowels and consonants. Vowels and consonants. But I'm talking about the sounds. I'm not referring to alphabet of English. This is what I told you. Please, you must bear in mind that for the time being, to understand phonetics, what we need to understand is we have to forget the 26 alphabet, but we have to remember something else. And what is that? We shall be talking in detail in the coming sessions. Now, after having understood this, let's understand this. It is because of the notoriously confusing nature of English spelling, it is particularly important to learn to think of English pronunciation in terms of phonemes rather than letters of the alphabet. This is what I said in the last slide, that for the time being you have to forget the English alphabet. When you talk about English pronunciation and you want to know what makes good pronunciation, what are the things involved in English pronunciation, if we need to improve it, okay? So we have to think in terms of phonemes rather than letters of the English alphabet. So one must be aware, for example, that the word enough begins with the same vowel phoneme as that at the beginning of inapt and ends with the same consonant as stuff. I would like to make it clear. Enough is a word. It starts with the vowel sound I and ends with the sound F. Enough. E-N-O-U-G-H. Enough. Enough. And in the word stuff, stuff starts with S and ends with F. The first line of this statement is what the confusing nature of English spelling. Here we find in enough, O-U-G-H, of, and then in stuff, U-double-F, of. Are you getting the point? So when we understand phoneme, we shall be able to give one sound to one sign or symbol, or one symbol, one sound, and then we shall be able to understand. Look at, for example, the last objective of your course, the last objective of the course which has been designed by the university, that you should be able, or the student will be able to transcribe general English into phonetic transcription. So, okay, that's great. Do you remember now? Good. So, unless until we think about phonemes instead of alphabet, it becomes difficult for us to understand phonetics and phonology. Now we have to talk about phonetics and the brain. Everything's happened in the brain. Do you remember I said different disciplines or branches of learning, they also work in association with phonetics, brain, neurology. Remember, until recently, we knew little about what is going on in the brain when people are speaking, and this is why the science of phonetics has concentrated on the three central components of speech chain, where observation of what is going on is fairly straightforward. We do not understand what is written over here. We do not understand. So far we do not understand what is the meaning of this. Alright? But remember, I told you that if you are to do, or if you are to conduct some sort of forensic investigation of someone's voice, right? But here the case is different. You might have seen in your practical life, in your professional life, in your academic life, sometimes you said about some speakers that this person is a wonderful speaker. He is or she is an impressive speaker. He is not a good speaker. She is not a good speaker. Why did you say that? That means something inside is already in your mind that can enable you to judge that what are the things one must have to become a good speaker. So neurology is working, all right? And let's understand this way. The understanding of how the brain works in the speech communications has grown enormously in recent years. Now, the communication, all types of communication. We speak, we are communicating. We make gestures, we are communicating. We make postures, we are sitting with postures, we are communicating. We are smiling, we are just communicating. Okay? We are frowning, we are in fact communicating. In the recent times, much has been done. And one of the most significant advances in recent research has been the development of safe and accurate brain scanning techniques that can show us the activities of different parts of the brain when someone is speaking or listening to speech. What about the underconfident speaker? How do you know that this speaker is underconfident? Or what about those speakers about whom you say this man or this woman is very confident speaker? Because you can understand through the sound waves the way one speaks. This is what one side is. But remember, science has achieved the target. You can take the person to the laboratory, right? You can test what's going on inside. And outside, when one is speaking, for example, when one is very much angry, shouting, what happens? Different types of sounds he or she is making. So now, what's going on inside the brain can be scanned, and there are certain scanning techniques available. Okay? Now, before we leave today's session, or we end this session, it is appropriate to understand certain things. That we try to understand about phonetics, and we try to understand what? How does the brain work? And at the same time, we try to understand what are the areas in which phonetics is playing a role. We try to understand some sort of articulatory phonetics, acoustic phonetics, but I did not deliberately talk about auditory phonetics. I did not. Definitely when we'll be picking up our next session, we shall be in the position to understand all these branches of phonetics. But since it is the first session, that's why we must try to get ourselves familiarized with some of the terms which we have come across today and the basics of phonetics. And the basics of phonetics tells us that phonetics is the scientific study of the production, transmission, and reception of human speech sounds or speech sound. What does it tell us? Yes, it studies what scientifically? The production, transmission, and reception of speech sound. This is the outcome. But before we leave, it is very important that you have to get yourself engaged in some sort of work. And the work is, please try to pronounce the words phonetics and phonology. I want you to pronounce some more words, and especially the terms you have come across during today's session, and I want you to record them in your voice. The basics, the terms you have come across today, try to reproduce them, try to record them in your own voice, and then you can write the same, for example, on the piece of paper and put it in the folder. I hope now you understand what is the basics of phonetics, what does it talk about. We shall be talking more and more, inshallah, in the coming days, and by the end of this session, I expect that most of you understand now what is phonetics and what are the areas it talks about. So thank you very much for this session. From my side, goodbye and good luck. Stay blessed.